So here we are going to be drawing this figure. If you take a look at this face that I'm going to draw, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I have a good visual idea of what it is that we're drawing here, okay? So first we need to visualize it. So look, the head is going to be right here, like so. I'm just going to put a few marks here and there, you know? This is the hairline, that's the forehead, okay? And we're going to have the face tilted like so. Um, all right, you can see that. And let me adjust this camera a little bit, okay? And hi there, Imani, innocent child. How you doing? Welcome. So the first thing we're doing is to make sure that we actually visualize this clearly, and so we have an idea of how this picture is going to be. Okay. So it's going to be a tilted head like this, and this will be where the neck is. So you see how I'm using a broken line, and you know, I'm using here like a broken line to to lay down the basic lines, okay? So this is where the face is going to be tilted like this, and this is going to be her neck and the shoulders. And once again, it's about visualizing. You see how I'm looking at this line, and I stopped right here, and I know it's going to go like this. Make sure you visualize the line before you draw it, okay? So there you go, look, a little bit of hair, and this part, this is where her ear is going to be, just like so. So it's all about visualizing and then laying down the line, okay? Look, boom, right there, like that. All right, there you go. That's the way we do it. And okay, now we come to the eyes, right? So I'm going to show you how to visualize before you draw. Don't just lay down the line. So this here, right? Is like this, correct? Don't draw it yet, but look, visualize it. You see that? Just like that. And so it's always like looking and visualizing, and then, all right, there we go, friends, like that, just like that, boom. And here we have, and let's give her the This is the strap. All right, now we come to the eyes, and all right, we have a layout of this right now. Okay, so we let's go into the details and see what we can add. First, let's look at what we already have. Build on it. Now we're gonna build on this. A little bit of hair coming up. All right. So we have this nice layout right now, friends. All right. So we can think of putting in some color and everything later on, but right now we're gonna get the basics down. Now we come to some details of the features, the eyes, the nose. All right, let's take a look at it. The eyebrow right there. Okay, we're gonna visualize it first. We want to make sure the space, the proportions are correct. So if you look at the proportions, right, and the space between the eyes, the eyebrows, these are all extremely important, and the angles, the way the angles. Okay, now we need to just simply vis- visualize where we're going to place them. Nice, like that. And you see, we want to give that space between the eyes, and then we're going to build the other eye, making sure the direction of uh, how she's staring, where she's staring. Okay, once I have a basic layer, then I can build on it a little bit more with more confidence. All right, now let's go to the lower part of the, just like that. So what I'm really thinking of is this particular distance, the distance between the upper eyelid like this here and the eyebrow right there, okay? You need that space, this space here, this space between the eyes, and the space here. See, these are very important to get the features correct. So you want to make sure that you have those areas correct, and then you build. Now the nose, right? There's going to be that angle, and you want to make sure that you have the proportions not too wide, but just about right, just for now, okay? Because you're going to lay that down, always visualizing it. Let's see, now you have this space here. You want the bridge of the nose. You have to keep all these things in mind. The bridge of the nose right here, right? The bridge of the nose, right? So you have this distance here, this distance here. I'm just putting those lines in the guidelines here, okay? We have a hair. Now let's go to okay, something like that. With the hair dropping right there. We can come to those details in a minute. All right. Now we come to the mouth. Once again, here's the deal, okay? Visualize it and then uh, lay it down. Okay, so let's see. If you see the mouth right there, what's happening here? How do I mount the mouth out? How do I want it to go? So you want to first see it, okay? You see that? I'm not even drawing it, but just letting my point five pencil there show me where to go. So visualize it first, and then we're going to outline what we visualize or what we project, you know. And this is a good way to draw nice and confidently. All right, there we have the upper eyelid. Oh, thank you so much, Aprila. Aprila, thank you. Uh, all right, so that's the visualizing part. Now we visualize the bottom lip, okay? Let's see the lower lip. So we want to give a little gap here, just like that. All right, and then we're gonna see, you see how I see this here first without drawing it? I see it, and then it's gonna be very easy to then, because I already see it before I trace what I see, you know, that's one way to put it, all right? So this way, you don't make mistakes, the mistakes are fewer, okay? So always train your eye to project the image, and once you train your eye to project the image, it becomes much easier, okay? Now you have a little bit of a good, nice idea of what it's going to be. Now it's time for us to kind of like refine these lines and use a eraser, a very good way, but always make sure that you're going over these lines a second and a third time before you color it in or whatever. All right, so here I am trying to like refine all these lines here. They seem a little shaky, but now it's time to straighten them out. And usually, the good idea is for you to really do it one shot, you know, one stroke, like, because you now have a good. So what I'm trying to do is to get it, the lines nice and smooth, and also like refining it a little bit, you know, getting those proportions correct. Okay, for example, and there's that angle, you know, you see that angle right there, the shoulder. Now this is very, very key to get it right. Right? And then you even go work backward like this, backward and forward, you know, to strap backward. So you see that the drawing is getting into a nice, good shape right now. All right. So this is a good way for you to practice. So at this point, what I want to try to do is to put in some color, but sort of make it like monochromatic, not too much of a color, but let's try some color in there, you know, and see what happens. Here I'm using a little bit of gouache, which can be applied. And this paper is also just practice paper, really. They're not like it's not, it's just a good way for you to practice, you know. So here I'm just experimenting with all kinds of like different colors. Okay. And obviously there's plenty of work to plenty to do on this. But what I'm doing here is trying to lay in some basic values, give it some body, give it some dimension, because this one can be built on, but I'm just laying in some. All right, friends, as you can see, it's building up. All right, and let's work in some details, build on it. All right, okay. Let's try to put in some color with the. So the most important part is for you to like lay in that first sketch, because that's a very key part. And then after that, of course, the building of the thing is the more details. Putting in all the details is the next part of this. But, so always learn to visualize and project your lines onto the paper. And then we can slowly start to build some color. And once again, as I said to you, this one is like a practice paper. If you want to do it on very good watercolor paper, if you were doing a serious work or some sort of a commission or something like that. But this is very good for you to keep practicing. Um, all right, here now, let me put in some details into the eyes, pop it out a little bit. So I'm first going with the dark part. And just be bold, just go in boldly. Because once again, as I said, right, you want to be able to see where everything is. So when you put your pencil, I mean your brush or your pencil down, you know exactly where you're putting your marks, because you visualize them already. You're not like, all right, okay, and with the same, let's go and touch up the eyebrow. All right, there we go, something like that. All right, friends. So basically, that's the way you want to do it. Uh, I'm just trying to like lay out basic feel, what it would be like if I made a painting like this. But so this is a quick way for you to thumbnail sketch, I would say. Thumbnail sketch, okay? Now let's change the brush a little bit. Use a broader brush, and let's go with the hair, all right? So, and I'm using watercolor, gouache, water-based colors. And here, right, what I'm keeping in mind is to leave some of the whites to create like this hair highlights. So just to keep in mind, I'm trying to look for three values, the light, the darker, and the hair. So let's go back and try to touch it up with a little bit darker. So here's a nice quick way for you to establish a thumbnail idea of how your painting should look like. Obviously, you can't finish a painting in about 20 minutes. Uh, you can, but all right. So this would be the way for you to like come up with an idea of what your painting is going to look like. All right, here I'm trying to establish those very dark. So obviously you want to keep that difference between those dark and dark brown, light brown, okay? And create, just draw with your brush. So there you have it. I hope you like this. Enjoy it. Nice and quick in 20 minutes. You get a good idea of where your lights and shadows are going to be in your painting and how you're going to do this, okay? So this is a good practice session. I now have a good idea of what the painting is going to look like, what I should have it, how we should pop out the background, okay? So these are the things, friends, that you need to keep in mind, and the way you draw, the way I like this, visualize it, and okay, that's the way we want it. Obviously, there's a lot more work to do on this, but I'm gonna have to stop because I have things to do today. But I really hope you enjoyed like watching this. Thank you so much for spending some of your time watching this. And so I would darken the and put in some details later on. But for now, I have a good way to like. I'm gonna leave it right there. I hope you enjoyed it, friends. Thank you, and have a wonderful day today. Bye.